Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Adam and this is Vancity Audi. We are back at Racing Greed today. We have my 2018 Volkswagen Jetta. You'd get that joke if you follow along on social media. On the dyno today because we have John Staffi, the technical director from Unitronic, that is going to be loading up a beta file for the TTE777 that I now have installed. And we're gonna do some dyno pulls because they don't actually have a completed file for this turbo for this car. If you follow along, you know that one of the big reasons that I originally went with the TTE700 was because there were multiple files available from Unitronic. I knew I wanted to stick with Unitronic. They had a file for 93 octane and E85 with a stock unbuilt motor, and they also had a file for a fully built motor, one with forged internals with E85. So I knew I had progressions I could go through to make the car faster and faster. And for me, that's all part of the journey and part of the fun to show you guys just the capabilities of what we were able to do on that turbo. Now that we have this 777, there isn't a file available for it. And the guys at Unitronic have been amazingly good to me, and they are now telling me, let's get John on this. He's gonna do a tune with me to kind of make one for a beta file. It's not gonna be 100% perfect. I'm telling you guys that right now. And this is not a custom file either. The car is sitting as we would normally race it. The two things that we've done are that 1000 core from iRose Motorsport, which we now have as the intercooler rather than the 800, and the turbo. Everything else is exactly the same as it was with the TTE 700. So at Racing Greed today, we have the car in all-wheel drive. We're gonna just be doing some tuning today. I'm not going for peak numbers. I'm not trying to make this thing make amazing numbers. And yeah, I wanna make sure it runs properly and perfect boost through the rev range and everything else that they need to get dialed to make sure this car works properly. I will be coming back another day where we can use the same conditions as I've done in all my other videos, where it's front wheel drive only. We get it on and we do the pulls so I can make sure that my consistency throughout the videos is the same. So all the dyno pulls I'm doing are the same because it's unfair to do it one different than another and make a comparison. I'm not expecting much today, to be completely honest with you. It is right in the peak of all those crazy forest fires that are taking place in the States, and all the smoke has come up through British Columbia. It has been completely smoked over, we'll say, for about a week now. The sun is piercing, but it is so smoky that it feels like it's gloomy and dark outside. The oxygen level in the air is extremely low because of all the smoke. So we're doing the best we can today to get John to put on this beta file on my car and see how it goes. I'll try to catch the action, show you guys what takes place and what's involved in doing this. Super pumped to see how this goes. Like I just mentioned, my Volkswagen Jetta is on the dyno. This time we're doing it in all-wheel drive, so the car is facing the other direction now. We do have much better cooling with the car facing this way with a massive fan up front. I have a couple other supporting fans to blow air as well. It's always hard to get enough airflow over the car in these dyno situations. Before I even get into any of this dynoing of the car, I wanted to make something perfectly clear to you all. Shawn from Racing Greed did an excellent job explaining something to me that I did not fully comprehend in my pea-sized brain on the day of this calibration process with John from Unitronic. And that was that my RPMs were not matching as they were previously on the dyno. So I've done all these front wheel drive dynos for you guys with a certain tire size. And the tires that I had were just oh so small. They're just a tiny bit different. But because of that, it definitely sets off the readings on the dyno. So I mention it once in the video, but I just wanted to make it clear the torque figures in this video are nowhere near accurate. They are extremely inflated due to the fact that the RPMs don't match. I touch on it slightly, but I don't stress it enough. The wheel horsepower is pretty damn close to accurate as per the operator Shawn from Racing Greed, but the torque numbers are crazy inflated. Enjoy the video, guys. run, and what we did on that run was a simple pull with the file that I already had on the car for the TTE700. Look at how close that is. We are running in all-wheel drive. The car is reversed on the dyno, same amount of air and all that jazz, but it's like 3 horsepower and 3 torque running on the TTE700, but with the wrong file. Curves are very similar, but you see some changes, a bit quicker spool. Very, very interesting for our first test though. So now that we have done that first pull and we have that initial log, we send that through, uploading it to the Unitronic server. John takes a look at it and uses the graph that we just had and the log we just had and does changes and calibrations to the tune itself. Then, once he's done those calibrations, he'll load it onto their server, and using the Unitronic Plus system, I then connect to that and put that file on my car, and then we're gonna run it again. And we'll see if the changes that he made were enough, what he needs to tweak, whether he needs to change, and that's how we're gonna do this process. But again, we're not going for crazy peak numbers, we're just trying to make sure the car is running efficiently and that turbo is working as it should. Here we have the second run. Now, don't be deceived by this torque being sooner in the rev range. It's because the RPMs weren't exactly matched, so it's happening a bit sooner. So imagine this graph being shifted over ever so slightly to line it up, and it wouldn't look the way it does. But for power-wise, 699 and 635. That's the second pull with his tweaks and adjustments. Again, we're just gonna try to balance it out. I think, I'm not speaking for Unitronic, but if I had to guess, they're probably gonna wanna make this a bit flatter rather than whoa over the top to make a nice flat torque curve. But we're gonna see what he plays with and see what changes he makes to see if we can make more power. The second change that John took care of us for us, squeaked out a little bit more. We're at 706 and 645 now. Very, very close curves though. Very, very close. They line up this time, they're not shifted over because we didn't change any of the values or the calibration. So it's still a little off. It should go a little further because our red line is further than this is set up for, but that's due for another day. We just want to get this calibration dialed in with Unitronic. Here is the last pull we did. This is showing a slight dip. These runs were done closer together, but the line itself, the graph, is a bit smoother. This is gonna be the final pull, the final tweak that John makes for us. He feels like this turbo is running extremely well for what he's done to it, and it's pretty much maxed out the way it is. There you have it. Those are our pulls as it was, as I drive, daily on the streets. I don't really do that anymore, but just basically explaining that untweaked, that's the way the car runs. Now I'm gonna do something fun for you guys. For those of you that watch my drag racing videos, you've seen many a times I refer to the fact that we've dropped the exhaust. Reason being is mainly weight. It's around 70 pounds worth of weight. But what I don't think anyone has done to this day is to see if it makes more power. So what we've done is we've dropped the mid pipe and it is just coming out the down pipe now, essentially a dump. And with this new turbo, with this new tune, we feel like there's probably too much back pressure with this stock exhaust. A custom exhaust is something that Ryder Performance and I will probably be working on in the off season. We know that there's too much back pressure, but we want to see how much more power we're actually going to get from a free flowing, from basically from the turbo to the downpipe and out, and to see how much of a difference it makes. It's going to be crazy ass loud. This is the very first time I will have ever dynoed this car with no exhaust. Here is the mid pipe. This is what we've removed to open up the flow of the exhaust. this dyno with the exhaust disconnected, we see that it is the exact same horsepower, 706, with or without the exhaust. The torque, 5 more. So not a huge difference. Those are the graphs. The solid line is the one without the exhaust. The dotted line is with the exhaust. So extremely close, but hopefully that will put to rest all those people that are like, you don't run an exhaust, you're making more power. I am not. It probably weighs 65 pounds less, but I am certainly not making any more power. That wraps it up here at Racing Greed, with an exhaust, without an exhaust, from start to finish, with a beta tune from Unitronic. Thank you so much to John over there for doing this with me. This is not a tune that was readily available. He specifically did this, which I really appreciate, as I do to Simon Sharp for the turbo itself. We squeezed another 26, I believe it was, 26 wheel horsepower from the larger size turbo, from the 66 mil TTE777 to the 63 mil TTE700. So besides that, we had the larger intercooler, but that is mainly for cooling, and on a dyno, your intake air temps are always gonna suck because there's never enough air over the engine. So we'll see what it's like on the street with some data logs and with racing. Very impressed. I'm very thankful. Super cool to know that I have over 700 wheel horsepower now. We're gonna get back here in a few days time, and I'm gonna do another video for you guys. Stay tuned. I have one more dyno video coming for you on this car, which is another really cool comparison that people have questioned, people have asked, and people have doubted. So we're gonna see what the answer is, and I'll keep you in suspense until the video to follow. Thank you everyone for watching. Until next time, guys, take care.